Yo, what's going on YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and today we are taking a look up in Montreal as we are taking a look at the Montreal Canadiens. We've got a bunch of interesting news out of the Habs Nation. Couple of things on Slafkovsky that are kind of interesting. He's kind of becoming a heavyweight at this point. Nick Suzuki, the new captain of the Habs, we'll talk about that. There's a couple of interesting things there. And of course, Carey Price, the one guy we probably won't see this season for the Habs. He's been struggling with some mental issues, and we kind of got some clarity on what exactly that is. So we're going to talk about that today. So we're going to start off with Slafkovsky, the first overall pick here in the 2022 NHL Draft. So here's an interesting stat for you. At just 18 years old, Slafkovsky is a top 5 heaviest player in the entire National Hockey League. The Canadiens' first overall pick gained over 20 pounds this offseason. The 6'3" Slovakian now outweighs players like Pat Maroon, Alex Ovechkin, Tom Wilson, Brent Burns, Tyler Myers, and many more. Very interesting. He comes in at 238 pounds right now, gaining over 20 pounds this offseason. Now, obviously, the joke has been that, well, he figured out what poutine is and seems to be eating a lot of poutine up there in Montreal, which I thought was kind of funny. But this is, if you guys didn't see, there's a video of Slafkovsky in the weight room his first day in Montreal, and the athletic trainer was holding the bike down because Slafkovsky was going to knock over the stationary bike because he was going on the bike so hard. It was incredible. And people asked him after, what's that all about? And he said, listen, I go into the Habs, the training room, and I'm looking to break that bike. I'm looking to break stuff. That is what you want to see. You want to see that intensity, because I think that's something that the Habs have been not necessarily lacking in this new group that Kent Hughes has kind of been bringing in and building. Because you look at the last couple guys, and no discredit to these guys because they are intense players, but I think Slafkovsky is that next tier, like a Brendan Gallagher or a Jeff Petrie type of intensity. Suzuki hasn't been like that. You could argue Kirby Dach maybe a little bit, Cole Caulfield. Those guys aren't necessarily like that, right? They're more playmakers and snipers. But Slafkovsky brings that edge factor, which I think that the Habs desperately needed, in one of their newer additions this year. So I'm a huge fan of Slafkovsky. I'm hoping that he does well this year for the Habs. He's going to have a lot of pressure up there. There is no doubt about that. Because you Habs fans out there, you're a big vocal audience out there. And I'm sure you guys will let him know every time he misses the net or every time he scores a goal, he will be notified of that. So shout out there to the Habs fans. But Carey Price, we've gotten some more clarity on his mental health and his time in the NHL's rehabilitation program, and is there substance abuse? What's going on there? So apparently, Carey Price is still struggling to get over the Canadian Stanley Cup final loss. He had trouble sleeping for a while because of it, which is crazy because that happened back in 2020, guys. That was 2 years ago. Price said that the most difficult part is working for something for over 14 years, being so close, and having it ripped away from you at the last moment. And that is a quote from Carey Price. He also mentioned that the therapy provided by the league's player assistance program has helped him as he's continued to keep tabs on his mental health. Price feels, in quote, much more comfortable to discuss his battle with mental health after voluntarily entering the NHL's assistance program. And this is in quote from Carey Price, asking for help when you need it is when we encourage our kids to do. And it was what I needed to do for myself. So Carey Price kind of coming out saying partially the reason why he struggled so much mentally is because of that cup final. Maybe a little bit of remorse, thinking that he could have, I could have done this or I could have done that. And putting all of the the focus on him, which is kind of how things have been in Montreal since he's gotten there. But I just think it's just a combination of things that have just not gone right for him. And I think that injury is like really dampering because he's realizing maybe that he might not be able to play for the Habs again. And I think that realizing that that 2020 run they had might have been, really was his last shot. So, listen, I hope for the best for Carey Price. He's got a couple years left on that contract. I don't think he's going to get moved. He's got to get healthy. I think mentally it's so important for him right now to get back, to get out of that mindset. I hope the best for him. I understand it. It's a human thing, but I think it's so critical that he kind of gets over this and finds a way to get back. I'm cheering for Carey Price. Everybody out there, maybe outside of Toronto and Ottawa, is cheering for him. Maybe even some fans there. Because the game is better when Carey Price steps onto the ice. Give me an argument to that, because I really think he is just such a vital piece of the NHL, and he's really struggled over the last couple of years. So I'm obviously hoping the best for him. So we'll see what happens there. Now I'm going to make an entire video on this after this video, but we've gotten some interesting thoughts out of Montreal on their new captain. So the Montreal Canadiens have named their new captain as the new generation, the new era in Montreal begins. Montreal Canadiens named their 31st captain in franchise history, and that happens to be 23-year-old new captain Nick Suzuki. Nick Suzuki is the next captain of the Montreal Canadiens, and there's been a lot of debate recently about should he be the captain of the Montreal Canadiens. He doesn't speak a lick of French, and a lot of people have kind of been out there and kind of saying, what's up with that? You know, this kid doesn't speak French. Why is he the captain of the Habs? So Nick Suzuki is the captain. In my book, I think this is a move this is what happens. The Montreal Canadiens, I understand the rich history, and what makes that history what it is the fact that they have certain traditions there in Montreal. The coach has to speak French. The GM has to speak French. And I understand that. Press conference-wise and things like that. And that's what separates the Habs as their team compared to what the rest of the league is. But there has to be some fine line here because, again, you have to look at it as, is the best player who is the best fit to be the captain? If it comes down to Nick Suzuki or the guy that can speak French, if Nick Suzuki is the best candidate, wouldn't you want him to be the captain, right? And I think it's one of those things where there's a fine line where you have to dance with that. I totally understand the Habs wanting to have their captain speak French, but I do wonder, I understand head coach, I understand general manager, but does captain, could there be a little bit of a deviance to that? And I worry that if, I think Habs fans are wondering, listen, if it happens here, then the tradition runs and it's gone forever because now they've implemented that and changed the policy and we'll never see that again. So I understand where they're coming from in that regard. But I think this is a great fit for Nick Suzuki as the captain there. It makes total sense. But let me know what you guys think of that in the comment section down below. What do you guys think of Nick Suzuki not being a francophone? Should that affect his captaincy status? Is it something that you really consider? Or do you think that he is the best fit to be the captain of the Habs and they picked the right guy, whether he could speak French or not? Let me know your guys' thoughts on the Carey Price situation. Do you think we could see him maybe return next season? And of course, what are your thoughts on Mr. Poutine over there in Slafkovsky putting on over 20 pounds of weight this offseason? Let me know your guys' thoughts on that. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.